You read that title correct. I'm excited for the future of Lost Ark. I've seen people dooming all over Reddit about Lost Ark prior to LOAON, and I want to give my perspective as the only almost 8K hour vet who doesn't seem to hate the game. But unfortunately, I was dedicating my extra time towards a gold earning video that became a meme 6 hours later when the LOAON aired. Knowing this cycle of dooming happens in this 4 to 5 month span after each LOAON, and the fact that they didn't hype up a class release had me convinced something big would drop, but I was not expecting what would actually drop. Going into LOAON, my only gripe with the game would be that raiding Thamine and Volus multiple times a week was draining on my psyche, because jails are at a peak prevalence on Gate 4 Volus and Gate 3 Thamine at the moment in pug lobbies. This was a similar experience mirrored literally a year ago when Clown and Brell Normal were the endgame and jails there were similar. From experience, these stale sections and raid fatigue are basically perfect times, personally, for me to try other games and finish ones that I had only touched previously, before I get locked in again. So that's what I've been doing. Barely doing dailies, doing lots but not all of my raids, and farming the gem market, as I beat Fallout 4, Dragon's Dogma 2, and I'm currently running down Phantom Liberty. So as mentioned, I've been prepping a hype train for this LOAON, and I was blown away during the presentation. I see lots of people talking about what was the peak moment for them in Lost Ark. Many mention the Vulcan era, and this is perfectly valid. The raid was super fun, couldn't get jailed too bad on it, and it introduced relic gear, which started the process of making your character that you had been grinding on for 4 to 5 months a monster. But for me, it was the first 4 months prior to Vulcan. You see, I have next to no MMO experience. I was a console gamer with a family computer, so there was no chance I could play an MMO as a kid due to time on computer that was used by the family. Lost Ark only happened for me by accident. I had a friend whom I worked with mention that I should try out the game for fun as a 4 group, and for some reason I agreed. I opened the game and was shocked by how fun I was having in the early story. Anytime I misclicked a button, a new menu popped up with a large selection of random things I didn't understand. I kept hearing about this endgame thing. I had never played a game with an endgame and couldn't imagine what anyone was talking about. I got to Vern, which made Guardian raids and Chaos Dungeons now accessible, and I was floored. Then I pushed through to Punica and was struck by the idea of an 8-man raid for Argos. There was all these new systems I had to learn and was having the best time. So now 2.5 years later, I'm hearing that the systems will be revamped with a new tier and I get to learn more new systems and build my characters respectively. And I'm excited. I see there's people dooming that they have to push characters again, but I feel like a majority of Lost Ark's issues arise during these stale, non-honing portions. I think there are different things people enjoy about Lost Ark. I personally fall into the section of loving to build new characters and try something new. You may have seen my gargantuan gold income video and wonder why my roster is so small and eye level. Well, this is because I love to rework my alts, try something new, and basically throwing my gold into the ether for some form of newness. I genuinely enjoy this aspect a lot in Lost Ark. People wonder why I'm still so average at the game with this many hours. It is no joke that I have a new project every week. I mean, this is a slight exaggeration, but for example, if my main 3 gets stale, I will look at an alt I have or want to make and start building it up and trying it. For example, a few weeks ago, leading into Thamine release, I dropped 150k to push a 1410 Deathblade to 1540, have a build and gems, and learn its baseline rotation. I have no plans to actually play this class, I just really enjoy these projects. My current one was getting full 10s on my main before Echidna, which is laughable based on what has just happened to the gem market. I know there's a large audience whom are used to maybe other games who look to hit the end game and just do raids and chill. I personally just really enjoy progressing my characters, and I think a lot of other players do as well. I've been hearing while lurking in KR streams or whenever Stoops goes on a mad tangent about why Tier 4 is needed in Lost Ark about this Tier 4 eventuality. The main pushback against it is this vocal minority whom hate progressing their characters, as well as the Giga Whales whom are financially invested in the current tier. So how does one appease both crowds? Well, LOAON seems to suggest that unlike previous tier switching, the current systems won't be useless in the next tier and very much still usable. More than likely, most will switch, but the options seem to be there to not have to change per se for at least a while. I'm not an expert on this, of course. I'm just a dumb dude in NA whom watched Stoops moan during translations for 2 hours. I've linked the same tone breakdown in the description, as this should be your go-to breakdown of LOAON for us in the West. But it seems this tier has been thoroughly thought out by Smilegate to appease as much of their audience, all whilst pushing their game forward and adapting. Besides the super exciting Tier 4 news, probably the most exciting aspect for a lot of super casual players in the Western version is the solo raiding aspect of the game. Besides people crying about pay to win, the largest thing you hear in complaints is gatekeeping, raid fatigue, raid anxiety because of toxicity, and the lack thereof of gold income due to these previous reasons. Solo raiding will help a lot to solve this issue for new and returning players, but also for some vets. You won't have to dedicate as much time to lobby simulator, raid jailage, or poor scheduling. Having the ability to knock out solo raids on some of my characters is a nice option, and this is huge for the super casual audience. They can learn the raids somewhat, get gold income, and have no stress on when to do them. I think this will be huge for a large portion of the player base and very exciting, as this should draw a lot of new or returning players to the game. I would imagine Jumpstart will bang this year significantly more than last year due to this fact alone. So even if you're a 1620 roster vet, this should excite you about the spotlight and audience that should come with this update for us. I also believe this is a test for Smilegate for how the audience in KR uses and reacts to this content. I think if this is popular enough, the speed in which raids get adapted to the solo experience will increase in focus. So here's hoping. I personally am most excited about the Season 3 revamps, but solo raiding is undoubtedly huge for the game. Other things noted in the presentation that were exciting for me was the 1620 dungeon that is only needed to do once instead of the 2 chaos we currently have to do. I have super copium that if this also has super positive feedback, this will be a standard option for all eye levels, but I think my 1540 alts are making me huff that copium super hard. I snoozed through the music part, but perked back up near the tail end, as it seems we are getting the MMO thing where you can play like sheet music in public areas. I saw it in BDO and thought it was super cool. I personally wouldn't do it, but as someone who sits AFK sometimes in major cities, people just talk in area chat, huddled together, dancing, or posing as trees. So the dynamics this brings to these social zones I believe is super cool and great for the social aspect of the game, and potentially helps balance out the toxicity that raid lobbies bring. I saw that elixirs and transcendence are getting cost reduced, and potentially more details later in a dev talk, but the one thing I have been complaining about forever is ability stones. It seems from everything I understand that these Season 3 ability stones won't be necessary to play the game, but just add additional damage to the engravings. I am the #1 ability stone hater NA East. The amount of alts I've rolled ability stones on in despair, knowing I have to hit or I cannot even experience the class, is depressing. I pushed 5x3+1 on my main 6 in March, and one character cost me 200k. That's not like I'm missing damage like elixirs or transcendence. I quite literally cannot get into any content but chaos dungeons with a 3x3 character who keeps missing his 7/6 stone. I think there's still a lot of little complaints about this game that are justified by the player base, but I think with this announcement out, the game is looking very exciting for new and old players alike. I, with almost 8,000 hours, am excited to learn more and eventually experience this ourselves. Now, do you have any update that you are super excited about that wasn't mentioned? Let me know below. Check out my previous gold earning video. Whenever the gem market stabilizes, you can make some serious weekly gold from the principles laid out in that video. Just close your ears when I say it's the safest market in Lost Ark. Check out my playlist for other Lost Ark content or guides for new and returning players. Until the next one, toodaloo.